Hello, welcome to the Award at 50 podcast. I'm Craig McCulloch in Vancouver with former federal cabinet minister, ombudsman, member of parliament, a university vice president, and most importantly, Gold Award alumnus, Stephen Owen. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
The award's been active in Canada for about 50 years, but you were part of the original group, that, at least in British Columbia, but one of the first in Canada that went through with the award.
Well, that's a good question. I couldn't recall whether our group was the first. We're certainly the first in British Columbia, and that was between 1963 and 66, I believe, a 3-year program. So there were 5 of us at Shawnigan Lake School, which was a boys' school then. It's a boarding school. It's now co-ed. But there were 5 of us who had the opportunity to do this. Peter Ladner, who's well known to people of Vancouver, Peter Quinn, David Slater from Edmonton, and Brian McDaniels from Ocean Falls. So there were 5 of us, and it was part of the program at Shawnigan that, in addition to the academic program and the sports program, which everyone, of course, took part in, you had to do an extracurricular activity. And the biggest one was Sea Cadets, with a band included with that. But there was woodwork and metalwork and doing something else of skills gaining. And when this opportunity came up, the school arranged for us to have that as our extracurricular activity. And it was certainly very new to BC, maybe even to Canada at the time. So we were going through some, I guess, over 3 years. It was very experimental because it hadn't been done before here. But it was a great way to work together. We did some life-saving, some St. John's Ambulance. We did the Royal Canadian, swimming certificates, and we did some public service in working with the volunteer fire department at Shawnigan Lake, which was great fun. They had an old, really antique fire truck that was fixed up to be perfectly workable, and while I don't think we ever attended a fire, we learned the skills, I think, for minimal skills anyway, and then did some mock fires being put out. But that was sort of a very interesting exercise, roaring around the Shawnigan Lake in an antique fire truck.
What benefits, if any, have you seen from the award now, looking back on it?
Well, it's hard to measure that. I mean, it was a lot of fun and adventure, so we were feeling very privileged to be doing that rather than marching around with the Sea Cadets and polishing boots. And it was experimental, and it was outdoors, and we learned some new skills. I can't say that it made any major impact on my personality or interests. It was just a great active time, and that was one of the things we were doing.
You have a lot of fond memories. You can always almost remember it like it was yesterday.
Well, hardly. My memory is pretty vague on it, but it was good fun.
Nowadays, the award's been active for 50 years in Canada and British Columbia. A participant getting involved can look back at other groups in their school or other groups in their church or synagogue or religious organization or other scout groups. But when you started the award, you couldn't do that because there were no others. So what made you try for the award?
Well, it was certainly experimental in a way. It was a group at a boarding school, so it was very easy to organize activities as a team and carry these out together. So that was but it was experimental, and that was really a fun part of it. It was something that the school hadn't done before, and we got to sort of test ride it. Mm-hmm. But we did, there were overnight hikes and, as I say, life-saving and first aid and this fire exercise.
Stephen Owen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for coming by.
Yeah. This is the Award at 50 podcast. If you want to find out more about the award, if you haven't checked it out already, dukeofed.org. Go to / and BC to see what us wild people do out here in the west coast of Canada. intaward.org for those of you around the world. But again, dukeofed.org. Check us out. Send us a note. Get involved and contribute in any way you see fit. For the Award at 50, I'm Craig McCulloch in Vancouver.